Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Q&A live session with me, Shakina. I'm going to be here for the next 60 minutes to answer all of your questions, OET questions, live. And I can see there's already quite a few questions that have come in on chat. But for those of you who have just joined us, or are completely new to this sort of session, the format of the session is quite simple. We are live streaming to YouTube and Facebook. So you're watching from either of those channels. If you've got a question for us to answer, please put it in the chat box or the comment section of the platform you're watching from. I'll receive those questions here and I will answer as many as possible in the next 60 minutes. So that's pretty simple. That's how it goes. There is no silly question. You can ask any sort of question about the OET test, anything that is related to preparation. Maybe you've got a question about the subtests, or maybe just general preparation advice. Any question is welcome. Every question is welcome. So put it in the chat or the comments, and let's get started with the session today. So I'm going to put up a question here from Foz, who's joined us via YouTube. Foz is asking, if the question says, what type of drinks should hypothyroid patients avoid? Caffeinated drinks / caffeinated beverages. Is it okay if I repeat the word beverages? Drinks is not in the text, but it is in the answer sheet of this test. All right, so let's just go step by step. So first of all, this is a question that looks like it's reading part A. Now in reading part A, remember that you need to, for your short answer questions, answer with a word or short phrase that is from the text, from any one of the 4 texts that I'm in the text booklet. So if you've got a word that is not from the text in your answer, then that answer will be incorrect, because what you need to do is you need to copy the answer exactly as it is from the text to your answer sheet. If you've given an option slash, that shows the assessor that you are not sure what the answer is. And we are looking for precision in reading part A, because this part of the test replicates what you do in everyday life. In a ward setting, in a busy ward setting, for example, you're looking for information about hypothyroid patients, for example, and you want to give advice to them about what they should avoid. The patient is in front of you. You need to give accurate advice, and you need to be very precise in what you're saying. So reading part A sort of tests this aspect of reading in the healthcare workplace, and therefore it's important to answer exactly with words from the text. So if the text says caffeinated drinks, then that is your answer. If it says caffeinated beverages, then that is your answer. If you're saying that this is in the answer sheet, then I would say perhaps looking at what practice test you're working with, try and understand if that is an official piece of, if it's an official test, because often what happens is unofficial materials mislead you about what is expected from the test. And if you look at the sample answers on our website, and the answer sheet or the answer key to all of our sample tests on our website, you'll see that it's the answers are very specific, and any optional words are indicated in brackets. And definitely in a reading part A answer key, you will see in official samples, there's nothing that is you'll never have a word that's away from the text, that's something outside of the text. So I would just caution as to using unofficial material, because that can mislead you about the text, about the test. We've got a really excellent video on how to succeed in reading part A. It's a video that covers everything. So this sort of question, as well as just to give you some tips on how you can be more precise with your answers, and what the expectation of the part of reading part A is, and how you can answer that well. So I've just put that in chat right now for you. I would recommend you check it out after this session. All right, so let's look at some questions coming in. I've got a question here from Judith saying, I can't find any online teacher in the UK to help me pass my OET test. I've been looking for it on the OET platform, but there seems to be nothing. All right. So I can assure you that there definitely are teachers that are teaching in a variety of modes in the UK, of course, but in different countries as well. And I'm going to put into chat our study with the teacher page, which you can filter to see our partners that offer a preparation online in the UK. So I'm just going to put that in chat right now. So this is our study with the teacher page. And this is something that's directly on our website, that will link you with all of our preparation partners. So I'd recommend using that link. With regard to just preparation in general, it's always a good idea to study with a teacher. So Judith, you've made the wise choice of doing that and of looking for a OET recognized partner. They are, of course, trained by OET, and they've got the knowledge that you need, that is going to help you build on your skills, build on your language, and which will make you more likely to succeed the first time round. So I definitely recommend studying with a teacher. I'm going to just maybe share my screen and show you where you can find a teacher, where you can kind of see where to find someone from the country that you are, or if you're looking for a teacher online. So I'm going to just share my screen. Hopefully you're able to see that. So this is our study with the teacher page. And then you've got filters here, as you can see. You can filter out options. And so, for example, the UK. And then if you're looking for online teachers, you can use those filters to find teachers offering online provisions, as you can see here. And there are a whole list of them. You can also look profession-wise, use that filter. So there's a number of filters there that you can use, and that's all on our study with the teacher page. All right. So I'm going to put up this question by Rawan on YouTube, asking, could you provide us with the best sources to improve reading and listening? So when it comes to reading and listening, it's important for you to remember that there are two ways you can improve your reading and listening skills. One way is to take practice tests. Now, taking practice tests, what they do is they help you become more familiar with the format of the test. They help you become better at answering multiple choice questions, and maybe with your time management. So those are the kinds of things that you're going to see improvement in when you practice with practice tests. But the other way that will improve your reading and your listening skills more expansively is to listen and read every day to the kinds of things that you would find in the OET test. So, for reading, for example, a lot of candidates, find reading part C a challenge. And the way to improve your skills for reading part C is to read more of the kinds of texts that you would find in reading part C. So, articles on topics of general medical interest, especially articles that help you improve or update your knowledge in the medical field. Those are the kinds of things that you should be looking out for. I'll share a resource that links to different sites where you can where you can read more of these kinds of articles. But that's just an example from reading. For listening, for example, if you're someone who, you know, struggles with listening part A, the context of the listening part A is a consultation between a healthcare professional and a patient. And the way that you can improve the way that you can improve listening part A is by listening to more real life consultations between patients and healthcare professionals. And you'll find, again, quite a few on YouTube and other sources. Again, I'll share a link in chat about that will help you find some of these. So there are two ways, like I've said: improving your test taking skills by doing practice tests, and improving your reading or your listening skills in general by reading more of the kinds of texts and listening to more of the kinds of audios that you'll find in the text. And I'm going to share, like I said, a resource which is our study guide. um, a study guide is an excellent resource that, uh, of course, has things related to the test, so you can definitely practice your test taking skills. But it's also got a section on resources which link to non OET material or non OET sort of listening and reading that you can uh, practice, that you can read and you can listen to, that will really help build those skills as I've just explained. So our study guide is on our Ready page. And if you just give me a second while I post the link. So our study guide is on the OET Ready page. It's a free resource. You can download it. You can save it to your mobile or your laptop and use it from there. And it's already got all of the links there. So all you need to do is click and go to that source. All right, so we've got a question from Augustine, who's joined us on YouTube. And Augustine's asking, what's the best approach for reading part A? So I'm going to put your question, just take your question off screen for a second and put up my tips for reading part A. So the best approach for reading part A is, first of all, to go through the questions in order. Now, the reason for this is that the first set of questions help you understand very broadly what the texts are about. So they help you understand if it's a dosage chart you're looking at, or if it's a medication table, or maybe it's advice or a treatment pathway. So once you've got a general idea of what the texts are, by answering the first set of questions, you when you get to the next sets of questions, you know roughly where to find those answers. So working your way through in questions in order is something I would recommend. If you haven't tried it already, we have a lot of candidates telling us they like to do the questions at the end first. But so if you are someone like that, just I recommend trying the approach of starting at the beginning. Of course, I'm not saying that you need to be stuck at a question. If you can't find the answer, you can always move on. But the general idea is to go through the questions in order. And the next step kind of relates to the first step, because as you are quickly reading to kind of answer those first set of questions, the matching questions, you're naturally going to be looking at text features if you are an efficient reader. So text features are, the headings of a text, the subheadings. If you have a table, looking at the row headings and looking at the column headings. It's also looking at any words that are highlighted in bold or italicized. These are text features. And our eyes sort of, when you're reading quickly, and if you think about it, if you're a good reader in your own language, this is probably what you're doing. You don't need to look at every text from left to right. You don't need to read every sentence and every line. What you need to do is quickly move your eyes to look at what the text features are so that you can quickly find the answers. The third tip is to check that your spelling is 100% accurate. In reading part A, remember there is no flexibility with spelling. You need to be accurate and precise. And so spending a few extra seconds on checking if the spelling is correctly copied is going to help you save any marks that you may have lost if you didn't spend those few extra seconds. And then the final tip is not to panic about time. Now, this is easy, of course, very easy for me to say. But let me tell you that if I do a reading party, which I sometimes do, of course, I do worry about the time, just like you would, because there is that pressure of time. So, one way to take the pressure off is to do the reading part A that you're practicing with without a time limit. So remove the clock. Just answer the questions. Focus on how you're answering the questions. Focus on the skills, and think about what. Think about the skills that you are using. See how long you take, and then say you take 25 minutes, then work your way down, cutting down time slowly so that once you're comfortable with the skills, you can use those more efficiently as you bring the time down back to 15 minutes. Okay, that was all right. So I've got a question here from Mohammed Adil. If a speaking card says you just examined the patient, do I need to introduce myself? So no, you do not. Think about it in this way. If you just examined a patient in real life, would you need to introduce yourself? No, you wouldn't. And the same is true for the OET role play. Approach the role card. Imagine this is a real patient in front of you in real life. Read the background information, and that will tell you exactly where you are in that interaction, and therefore if you should introduce yourself or not. I'm going to put into chat a wonderful blog article on this particular question, and it is something that I would recommend you check out. And I'm just putting that in chat right now. And as I'm putting that in chat, I'm going to just recommend our blogs. They are on our Ready page, and they are a great way to find some of your, answers to your questions. So I would recommend heading to the blog page as well. You might also find a lot more there that will help you in your preparation. So this is our blog page. It's called Study Tips and Inspiration. And I would recommend checking that out. All right, I've got a question here or a comment from Divya R, who's joined us via YouTube. Divya saying the OET test for nurses, specifically reading and listening, are very hard. So, Divya, I just want to reassure you that the test for all healthcare professionals, whether that's nurses, doctors, physiotherapists, therapists, any of the 12 OET professions, the difficulty of the test or the challenge of the test is the same. Um, the test isn't harder for nurses and easier for doctors, or easier for doctors and harder for physiotherapists. The level of challenge is the same. And this is because we, OET, have had to prove to regulators who accept our test that any candidate has a fair chance of passing the test, no matter where they write the test, when they write the test, and what profession they're from. So I'd just like to reassure you of that. Reading and listening might be a challenge for you, and that is perhaps because you might need to spend a bit more time working on your reading and listening skills. And so, if that is something that is something you need to work on, then I would recommend our study guide. I've just shared the link in chat a bit earlier, to check out the reading and listening sections and the resources sections there that are going to help you get access to more resources that will really improve those skills for you. All right, a question here from Lorella on YouTube. Could I start writing during the first 5 minutes in the OET writing test? So the answer to that is no. During the first 5 minutes, you have reading time. So you are not allowed to write or make notes, whether that's the computer-based test or the paper-based test that you're taking. Of course, you do feel like you need to start writing immediately, but using the full reading time is really important because it really gives you an understanding of the reader who you're writing to, why you're writing to them. And during that reading time, you could also plan how you want to present your letter, what organization you could use. So I'm just making a mental plan of that before writing time starts. I'm going to post into chat one of a really great blog, which will give you something to think about, or some questions that will help you focus your thinking during reading time when you can't write. So I'm going to put that in chat now, and we call it the reader strategy. And of course, the reader strategy is important because the reader who's reading your letter is what you need to focus on during that reading time. So just put that in chat. Susanna on YouTube asking, can you write the answers for reading and listening part A in capital letters? So all caps nausea, for example. Yes, you absolutely can. Capitalization doesn't matter in reading and listening part A. The only recommendation is to make sure that you use this consistently throughout that reading party or that listening party, because then it just becomes easier for the assessors to, it becomes easier for them to understand this is the style you've chosen, and all of your answers are going to be written in that way. There's no confusion. So for that reason, I would just recommend being consistent. But yes, you absolutely can write in capital letters. Amar on YouTube asking, are the official courses on your website enough to prepare? So, Amar, this is something that really depends on two things. One main thing is your language level, and where you are in terms of your language and how far that is from your desired score, or the score that you're aiming for. So I would recommend perhaps looking at assessing your language level. Of course, if the gap between your desired score and the language level that you're at is is not a lot, you're very close, and your level of language is good, then of course, you can use the official materials on our website, the paid courses, the textbooks, and that should be enough. But if you've got more work that you need to do on your language skills, then you need to perhaps do more language work and perhaps even work with a teacher. So I'm going to put into chat a link to OET Pulse. This is a quick 30-minute test that will give you an idea of your language level, and you'll also get recommendations on what kinds of things you need to work on, or the kinds of language work, for example, that you need to do, to improve. So I'd recommend checking out OET Pulse. I've just put that in the chat. Okay, I've got a question here from Mauricio on YouTube. And Mauricio is asking, at the beginning of the speaking session, should I ask the interlocutor her name during prep time or during the conversation? So, Mauricio, this is a question really about starting the role play and using the patient's name. So, you've got a couple of choices that you could do a couple of things. One is that you could ask the interlocutor what they should be called during the preparation time. You definitely can do that. So if, for example, the role play is like you've just examined the patient, then you can use the name that they've given and start the role play with that name. But equally, you can also just assume a name for the interlocutor, and start and use that name. The interlocutor will respond to that name. So you don't need to worry about asking them their name. You can also use any name, and that will also work. And I am just going to post in the chat a blog that I just posted a bit earlier, that is all about how to start the role play, whether you need to introduce yourself or not, and what name you can use for the interlocutor. And remember that you need to, of course, think about the background information. Think about whether if the role play indicates that you already know the patient, or you're in the middle of the role play, or the middle of the consultation, or if it's the first meeting that you have with the patient. In which case, yes, introductions are necessary. So I'm just going to put that into chat now. I've got a question here from Kiki, who's joined us on YouTube, asking, is it helpful if we practice some reading party tests from YouTube, which are not real or official practice materials? So, Kiki, they are something that we don't advise candidates practice with, because they can mislead you about the test. So, the types of questions that are often found in unofficial materials, maybe the answer keys are something that you might not find in the real test. And so, if you're practicing with those materials, you develop certain expectations about the questions and the answers, which are not really true to what what the test is really. And so when you go on test day, you might end up with a big surprise, because you've practiced one way and the test questions you're seeing are testing different skills or are different. So we would recommend not doing that. There are, of course, official practice tests on our website that are free. And if you're interested, you can head over to the OET store, where there are additional materials that you can practice. So I'm going to put um, the store link to chat now. All right, I've got a question from Sunita. Can we write only listening and reading if we don't get the desired score in the first attempt? So, Sunita, you definitely can, in the sense that at OET, we do have the option to take a single test retake, a single subtest retake. But whether that is accepted by the regulator you're applying to is something that you need to check before you do. Um, Regulators have different requirements. Some of them do accept single subtest retakes, some of them don't. Would recommend checking with the regulator. I'm just going to show you our Who Recognizes OET page. Um, and this page is a really handy tool you can use to find out more about regulators, um, and be able to navigate to their sites directly, where you will find the information. So I'm just sharing my screen to show you Who Recognizes OET page. So you could, of course, explore by country. But even if you just typed in the organization name, so for example, if I'm looking for the NMC, I'll be able to see, that'll come up for me. And as you can see in the result, you've got the profession, of course, but the test modes that they accept, as well as the required scores. You could also use, so you could also have a look at all of the organizations and filter by country. So if you are interested in a particular country or countries, you could see the regulators there, what scores they accept. And you could also filter for your profession, so that you're able to kind of narrow your search down a bit more. So this is our Who Recognizes OET page. I'm going to put that into chat now. And this is something that you can use to navigate directly to the regulator pages. Right, let's go and look at some newer questions. So thank you for all of your questions coming in. Like I said, there is no silly question. All of them are important to us, so please do keep putting them in, and hopefully, I'll be able to get to as many as possible. Right. So I've got a question here from Facebook. Could you clarify letter marking? How are letters marked in OET? So we've got, so once you write your letter or once you've written your test, um, your scores are so you get your scores by assessors who use writing criteria to mark your letter. Now, the writing criteria is something that you need to know a bit about because, like I said, the assessors are using the criteria to mark your letter. The criteria are on our website, and I might just pull them up for you so you can have a look very quickly. And I'm going to share also a resource that explains the criteria and takes you through some examples and tips that will help you understand what is expected of you in each of the criteria. So let me just share my screen. And this is again something that you will find on our website, on our writing page. So you've got, this is what the criteria look like. So as you can see, you've got purpose, uh, content, conciseness and clarity, genre and style, organization and layout, and language. Each of these criteria are marked um, f- from 0 to 7, except purpose, which is marked from 0 to 3, as you can see here. And the focus of the criteria are different. And so the assessors use the criteria to mark your letter. So, for example, I won't go through all of them, but for example, the purpose criterion looks at whether you have been able to successfully tell the reader why you are writing to them and what they need to do to continue care. So what are the what are the specific requests that you're making of them? It also looks at whether you have highlighted the reason for writing so that the reader can find the reason for writing. They don't need to search in your letter for why they have received the letter and what is what they need to do. So these are the criteria. And the reason why these criteria exist and why we mark according to these criteria is because they look at the writing skills that you need to write or communicate a written handover to to another professional. So there is a reason for each of these criteria being there in the test. And like I said, they help you, they test or they assess those skills, writing skills for the workplace. Um, I'm going to share our writing guide. Our writing guide is that resource that explains each of the criteria. It gives you examples and tips, and you'll understand a bit more about how it is assessed through that guide. So I've got a question here from Saika. Saika's asking, I'm new. Could you guide me? So Saika, I'm going to share with you our Ready page. Um, and I'm just going to put that up for you. Um, it is an excellent page where you can find a lot of resources um, for your preparation, and I'm going to recommend one resource specifically because you've said you're new to the test. So give me a moment while I just share my screen. So this is our Ready page. Um, you know so this is when you go to oet.com, you'll see the Ready tab up top on the left. So if you click there, you'll get to the Ready page. You can navigate through these tabs here, and of course download the study guide. But one course that I'm going to recommend is our intro course. Now, our intro to OET courses. There's one for doctors, there's one for nurses, and one for allied health professionals. These are free courses, as you can see there, free. And these courses really, this course gives you an idea of what the test is all about, what skills you need, and of course the format of the test. So if you don't know anything about the test and the format, then this is also a great course for you. It also gives you advice and tips on how you can begin your preparation. So I would recommend checking it out. um, Once you click this link, you go to the store. All you need to do is add this course to the cart, and you will be sort of directed to a platform where you can, set up an account and complete the course for free. So this is one resource I would recommend, and I'm just going to put into chat, in fact, the link to the intro course, so intro to OET for nurses, but you can definitely navigate from that link and go to the one for medicine if you're a doctor, or allied health professionals for the other professions. I'm just looking for some newer questions that um, let's look at this question about reading part B and C. And the second part of that question about lexical questions in reading part C. So I'm going to recommend a strategy and then also a resource that you could use to understand more about lexical questions in reading part C. So I'm just going to take your question off and then put up my tips. So let's look at reading B, and then I will apply some of these tips to reading part C as well. With reading part B, the questions are not connected to each other. So when you finish a question, don't worry about the question that you have just answered. Get yourself mentally into a new space to sort of answer or approach the next question individually. Um, The second tip is to look for evidence to support your choice. Now, this is very important because in both part B and part C, this is something that you need to do. You need to look at the text and understand or find evidence, find reasons for why your answer is correct or your choice of answer is correct in both part B and part C. Um, One more thing that you could do is look for evidence for why the other options are incorrect. And again, looking at the text. Um, the questions are designed in a way that encourages you to read for meaning in the text. So just simply matching keywords from the answer options or synonyms from the answer options with the text is not going to work. You really need to understand what the meaning of the question is and meaning of the options and sort of link that with the meaning of the text. So looking for both evidence for why an answer is correct as well as why the other answers are incorrect is really, really important. It's something that if you start doing, um, you'll sort of, your brain will automatically go and think that way. So if your test, if you've still got some time left for your test, you can try this strategy. The final tip is to read the sentence which you think has the answer in more than once. So, of course, when you finish, you're worried about time, you think, you've got to move on to the next question, but spending that extra minute or so just checking that, checking with the text again and confirming will help you avoid, wasting marks. If you fail to pick up on something, um, when you're answering the questions, you could do it in that 1 minute when you're sort of checking and reading that sentence again. Okay. And I'm going to, like I said, just share the resource for lexical questions. This is our complete guide to reading Part C. And it's got an explanation and it's also got tips that will help you answer those questions. So, this is our complete guide to reading Part C, and I've just put that in chat. I've got a question here from Claudia saying, I'm a pharmacy technician in Spain. Can I take the OET test for pharmacy? Claudia, this is something that you will need to check with your regulator that you're applying to. And so I would recommend going to our Who Recognizes OET page. I've put that in chat, but what I might do is just repost that. And there you will find, of course, the regulators who accept our test for pharmacy, and also links to the actual page where you can get more information. So this is our Who Recognizes OET page, and that's coming through chat. All right. So I'm just looking for some newer question. Right. I've got a question here from Apta saying, I'm going to attempt the exam on the 1st of November. Suggest a last moment tip. So, Apta, you've definitely got 3 more weeks, which is, of course, your final leg, so to speak, of your preparation. One tip that I can recommend is to create a personal checklist. So, as you revise, to create a personal checklist of areas that you find yourself sort of struggling with, or areas that you know that you need to improve in. So for each subtest, just to create a personal checklist. So for example, for writing, your tenses are something that you need to check. So just including that, so that when you are, in the last 5 minutes of your writing time, you could just make sure your tenses are correct. So creating a personal checklist is a really good idea. And the second tip is to look at our test day guides, which will tell you, more about how you can actually prepare for um, the actual logistics of that day. So, what you need to bring to the test, making sure that you're carrying everything you need, and arriving at the test day venue on time, all of those kinds of things. I would recommend our test day guides, so that you're mentally prepared for the day as well. I'm just putting into chat the test day guides. Right. I've got a question here from Shaha saying, could you give me some tips to score more than 320 in reading and listening? This is my third attempt, and now I'm afraid of giving the test again. So, Shaha, of course, it is disappointing when you have prepared and you haven't got the scores that you were hoping for. I would recommend, having a look and reflecting uh, on what it is that are your strengths, of course, but your weaknesses in each part of the reading and listening test. Um, it's also important to think about the two types of skills, and think about which type of skill you need to work on. So, the two types are your test taking skills, and the second type is your language skills. And often, when you are sort of at that borderline, almost there, but not there yet, often we find it is actually your language skills that you need to work on. So, just taking a pause, a break, reflecting, of course, on each part of the test, but also thinking of a plan to improve those reading and writing, listening skills generally, um, is a good idea. So this is, I'm not talking about doing a practice test every day. No, that's not what I mean. I mean taking a break from practice tests and doing more reading, extensive, outside of OET practice tests, using some of those resources that are recommended in the study guide. So doing more of that, and really improving your reading and listening, building it into your daily routine. That is where you're going to see the most improvement in your scores. I'm quickly going to post into chat our reading week playlist. That is that's got extra recommendations and excellent advice on how you can build a daily reading habit. Right. So just coming to the last um, few minutes of our session today, and I've just looking for some questions that I haven't answered, or some types of questions that I haven't answered yet. All right. I've got a question here from Dinesh saying, I'm doing the pen, I'm doing a paper based test. I need material for printing to practice. So, Dinesh, um, I would recommend going over to our Ready page. You'll find official sample tests that are uh, paper-based tests that you can, download and print. So that those are there available for you to be able to do that. I would also recommend going to our OAT store. Our OET store is where you can find links to books, if that is something that you really would like to study with. You like something in your hands, then there are books as well that you can purchase, and use for your preparation. All right. And I think we've got time for one more question. um, so I'm just looking for one that I can answer. I've got Shahina on YouTube saying, could you guide me on how to plan or prepare for a month? So, Shahina, this is something that is really something that you're going to be the best judge of and the best planner, because how much time you need to prepare or your preparation schedule is something that really only you can create, because there are two things involved. So, the first thing is, how much time do you have to prepare? How much time can you dedicate every week, every day? You need to be realistic. So you need to make sure that you're including time for, everyday life, your chores, family, time to relax, sleep, eat. Um, and if you're working full time, then obviously that will take up a large portion of your day. So how much time you have really depends, is really something that you would know. The second thing you need to look at is your current language level, and how far you are in terms of your language level from the score that you desire, that you need. So looking at both of these things is how you can plan or prepare uh, a schedule. um, if you've got to, obviously, if you've got more language that you need to learn and you need to improve, your current level is a bit far away from your target level, your target score, then you will take longer. It could take longer than a month for you to be preparing. um, but if you've got lots of time, and you've got lots of time, and your skill, your language level is quite close to your target level, then it could take less than a month. So it really depends on you, and thinking about those things, two things is something that you can do to plan or prepare your preparation schedule. All right, so we've come to the end of the session today. I'm going to put up on screen the time and date for our next session, which is on Tuesday, October 28th. I'm just sorry. We've got to remove that question there. On Tuesday, October the 28th. So it's at the same time, and all of those times displayed on screen. If there's a question that I haven't been able to answer, um, please do contact us via Facebook, and we will answer your question. Like I said, all of your questions are important to us. So please do contact us via Facebook if you've got an unanswered question. Thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, bye for now.